welcome to the Fortress of Comic News, episode 183. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, alongside, he's in a different location, Mike.
Oh, well, I mean, you wouldn't know unless you said something, but yeah, here I am.
Everybody knows, Mike. Just stop lying to the people. They know.
Where am I? I don't know. Now I'm in the animated universe of 60s Batman. Here I am.
Did you smoke way too much weed and then your next season was animated?
Yeah, something like Trailer Park Boys. I don't know. Did they ever do another season of that? I can't remember.
Yeah, they did a season 2, I believe.
Oh no, they did shrooms. Did they do it? They ate so many shrooms they turned into.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah. Oh. That's the best way to transition an animated series, if you ask me. Like, I don't know, they just embraced it.
It fits and it's funny, and like I bet those guys are getting old enough where it's just like, yeah, let's just sit in a booth and voice act.
Yeah, so you don't have to walk around and do anything. Like, I mean, that's not like they earned. They didn't earn it. I mean, he laid around on the ground eating 5 cans of raviolis, and that was nobody can just eat 5 cans of ravioli. I do love that show. Oh yeah, but here we are. No interview today. We got some stuff to talk about. Finally got the Invincible trailer.
Yeah, speaking of interviews, though, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to the guys at I Freaking Love Comics, because they interviewed me, and it's up on their YouTube right now. So check out I Freaking Love Comics. Good dudes.
Yeah, and it's who would have thought? Because I say that every morning when I wake up. I say I freaking love comics, and now there's a podcast for it. So go check them out on YouTube. Very cool people.
And good gal as well. She was not there, but I did get to meet her briefly, and she was cool as well. So all three people.
Yeah, and here we are, just a couple of jerks.
And Mike,
there's more.
This is mostly for you, but this is an announcement for all my Kickstart backers. Something came in the mail today. Well, yesterday.
Wait, is it show and tell time? Oh, it's packaged.
Bam!
Oh, that is
9.8, baby.
9.8. And here, I know I bought one. I'm very excited.
Pay attention to the Fortress Comics label.
Oh, wow.
Underneath Battle Monsters #1.
Yep.
I'm very jealous because I didn't get one for myself.
What? Did you sign mine before you sent it out?
No, I didn't, because I'm not in their system, so it affects the grading.
Oh, it goes down.
It would go down, yes. So yeah, none of them got signed, but you're all gonna have 9.8. They all came back as 9.8. So
graded 9.8. Chris signed it, so now it's a 5. That is actually hilarious that you're not in the database. Either way, I'm stoked to get it, but it's did they ever make higher than a 9.8? We always talk about like the controversy around CGC comic book grading, and
I think I've seen 9.9s before, but I don't know.
Like, what is a 10? It's like literally right off the printing press into the CGC.
It's got to be, because these were literally right off the printing press. Like
CGC.
I went through and I picked out ones that looked as pristine as possible. Like, right. Because they came to me. A few of them had bends in them. A few of them had like whatever in them.
That happens.
Fine. But I picked out the 3 best ones and sent those out for the backers, because I wanted 9.5s or higher.
Of course.
And they all came back 9.8s. But what's awesome now, Mike, is now that in the CGC system, there is a tab for Fortress Comics. So we did it.
We just wrap it up now, call it a day. Thank you. I was actually shout out to another podcast really quick. Pod Quiz. Really cool podcast. It's like a trivia podcast. They're like 10 to 15 minute episodes. The guy's a really cool dude. He's British, so he's a very calming voice, but he does like music trivia, and they're like 10, 15 minute episodes, and they're really casual. They're fun for like road trips, but he said something like he's been doing it for over 15 years. And you think about that, that's like 2005. That's like the dawn of podcasting. You know what I mean? Can you imagine like starting off before like podcasts were even a thing? And not readily available. Like you had to go on a website to download it for like an MP3 player or something. That's pretty crazy.
It's funny you say that, because I've done a few interviews, and the I Freaking Love Comics one is the only one that's up right now. The rest are still like in limbo.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of them have talked to me afterwards and been like, can we get some advice from you? You've been doing this for a long time. I'm just like, I'm doing it for like. And I looked, and I had to, because on the back of the comic is our. So not only is it CGC'd the comic, but our thing is on the back too. So I looked at the back of it. I was like, oh yeah, we started this in 2016. I was like, we haven't been doing it for 4 years. And all these people have been doing it for like months, maybe a year. And they're like, I didn't realize what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I'm just like, am I the elder statesman in comics podcast now? Like, is that what's going on around here?
The crazy part is I just came to the realization we're a third of the way to 15 years. That's kind of scary.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Also, I don't know, for any of the older listeners, this wasn't even the original name of the podcast.
No.
So it was we were doing this before. I didn't even know how many episodes did we get to the other one?
3 or 4.
Was it only a few?
Yeah, it wasn't that many.
We realized
because I remember we were just like, we can't say the name and it's stupid.
Yeah, like we couldn't figure out how to say the name. It was like it seemed like an awesome idea. You're like, that's a great idea, C3PO podcast, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so it made me laugh because I'm like, in terms of like indie podcast, I know there's been a lot of podcasts that have been around for a long time. Like I listened to Longbox Heroes, which has been around for I don't know, 8-9 years.
Yep.
And but it just made me laugh because they're all like, can we get some advice? What do you do in this and this and that? I'm like, I'm still pretending like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's cool to exchange ideas and stuff like that. But I remember, I'll never forget. And we'll just go tell one more story before we, we got some dead air to fill. But I remember when we did an interview with Robert Venditti, and this is like off recording, and he was like, "So yeah, DC contact we, DC put us together, right?" And we're like, "No, we emailed you, Rob." He's like, "Oh, they didn't." And like the realization on his face, and he's like, "I literally have to talk to these two idiots that DC didn't even reach out to these guys. He's probably have like no followers, no listeners," and it was like, "Haha, we got you, sucker." But no, he was really cool about it. But it was just funny because he was like, "Oh, so you emailed me?" We're like, "Yeah." Sometimes.
So, shout out to all the new listeners too, because there's a bunch of them. I was looking at the numbers, and there's like, I don't know what we did in September, but we spiked hard in September. So to all you out there, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. I know Chris doesn't appreciate it because he's a meanie poop head, but I really don't. I'm just kidding. He's so appreciative. And if you go back in the early days, it's so cool to see like where we've come of. You had this idea like maybe I could do my own comic, and then bam, here it is. You got your own comic out. Now I'm waiting for issue 2, so let's hurry up with that. Don't pull a Grant Morrison and drop off after a Mark Miller and get to 4 issues, and then I gotta wait like 8 months or something.
I can confirm that colors for issue 2 are coming in, and I might be sharing them soon with people. So
nice, awesome.
It's happening.
It's happening. Awesome. Okay, you know what else is happening? The news. So let's jump right into it. What do you think?
I guess.
Okay. I mean, we might as well. Let's just start off with talk about. We both watched it, the season finale of The Boys.
Yes.
Very sad that it was the season finale. I feel like it just happened, but it wrapped up really nicely. I think it was like one of the best season finales I've seen for a show. Just the way they wrapped up all the character arcs, and a lot of the characters like completely, like Maeve, completely turned a 180 of her character, and like it made sense of why she got involved. And Homelander's completely psychotic. Like, we had a way better girl power team up than in any of the Marvel movies. They got to kick the shit out of a 100-year-old Nazi. So like,
yeah, and Mother's Milk's line there was pretty fantastic too.
Yeah. Well,
talk about girl power or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. And I love how the guys were just standing there like, we're literally powerless. We're just gonna watch them beat the shit out of this Nazi. And it was, I mean, it was awesome. It was, but it didn't, not to knock the Marvel movies, but that the Infinity War thing when it happens, they just kind of like, oh hey, here's all the women in one shot. But like, in this show, they all had a point on being there, and they all had a reason to beat the shit out of her. You know what I mean? Like at that point, it made sense for all the characters to be there.
It felt more organic as opposed to when it happened in Endgame, and I didn't roll my eyes because it's a girl power moment. I rolled my eyes because it was just like, okay, like you didn't really earn this.
Yeah, right.
It felt like you wanted to have that moment, and you did, as opposed to going through the season really earning it. Like
and that's how you do it. Like, and it's the fact that like, oh wow, these were just strong characters, you know. Yeah. And go back to that interview with Kelly Thompson. She's like, I hate that question about strong female characters, and I think about that question a lot after asking her. But those are just strong characters that ended up meeting up in that point, and you're like, holy shit! I just realized the strongest characters in the show are all females. Like, and they're kicking shit out of a Nazi.
And after it happened, I realized my favorite character of the season was Maeve.
Oh yeah,
like her arc in this season is amazing. Mm-hmm. Going from like just wanting to just go about her business and do her thing, to being scared for her life and the woman she loves.
Oh yeah.
To then just being like, fuck it, I'm taking control and
beating
the crap out of a Nazi.
Well, there was a slump there where she was doing bong rips and, you know, hooking up with dudes. So
there was a moment where I thought they were going to cop out and go with comic book Maeve.
Yeah.
Because there was that scene where she's in bed with like 3 dudes.
Yep.
And yeah, she's just like hitting that vape pen hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so that's what they're going to do with her. They're going to do the comic book version. Okay. And then the turn came, and I was like, I love this. This is awesome. Just as a character, it was awesome.
Yeah, so the whole, I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. The big takeaways is the thought, they're teasing the comic book readers of the thought of like, oh, you know, Vought almost got the Compound B into the police officer's hands. So there's, you know, they're kind of teasing us with the boys are going to get their hands on the Compound B and, you know, use it on themselves. Hopefully, I mean, that's eventually the road we're going to get to, I would think, right? And they're referred to as the boys in this episode. I don't know if you caught that, but I don't think they really do that. Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was like, so I'll go with a disappointing moment for me. Near the end of the episode, when the CIA lady goes to Butch and says, "Hey, we've got congressional approval. We're going to have, you know, the sneaky money coming through. Yeah. Do you want to head this division for us to keep?" And I was like, okay, so we're gonna do what they did in the comics, and we're gonna they're gonna be like kind of a part of the government, but not really.
Right.
And maybe they'll get to sneak some Compound B for the next season and start doing like these more, instead of just it being Butch versus Homelander, which is what the first 2 seasons have been for the most part. We can really get into some of these story arcs about like Tech Knight and I forget G-Men and all these other things that happen.
Mm-hmm. Tech Knight, I forgot about Tech Knight.
I love Tech Knight's story.
Yeah.
It was so wild. Yeah, it's so strange, but I loved it. And he turns her. He doesn't really turn her down, but he turns her down.
Yeah,
because he doesn't say anything. He just walks away. And I was kind of hoping for that moment. Mm-hmm. And everybody's kind of split now.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they come back, because I hear there's going to be a season 3. Mm-hmm. And they set it up that there should be a season 3, so I'm hoping.
Right.
Go ahead.
The other things that happened, I mean, like they got rid of his wife, and come to find out that the local senator, elected official, is the one blowing up the heads. I'm like, that was really cool too.
That was funny to me personally, because I think it was last week I made the connection where I said, like, so this senator is basically AOC in the show. Like, she's the AOC counterpart. Yeah. And then she ends up being the one blowing up everybody's heads.
And I think if you go back and look at the scene, she's kind of, like, pretending to, like, hide by, but I think you see her, like, when the first head blows up. I gotta go back and watch that scene, but I think she's, like, you can tell that she was the one that did it if you pay attention.
Yeah, and also the cult, like how the cult, the Scientology group, what they are, who they are, and we get kind of more of a confirmation of how they connect everything. Mm-hmm. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, Stormfront's definitely not dead. They're gonna bring her back.
So my feeling is that Stormfront is gonna take the place of Lamplighter where she's not dead.
Zombie.
She's zombie-esque.
Yeah, zombie.
She's like she's who they're going to test to like see if they can resurrect heroes.
Yeah. I was curious if they're going to do the whole thing with Black Noir and explore that, like that big reveal. I wonder if they're still setting up for that. But
so, if you watch the last episode, they kind of reveal Black Noir's face, and everybody went nuts that like he's a black man underneath it,
right?
Or at least he's a brown-skinned man of some sort.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if that takes. Everyone's saying like that takes away from it. He can't be a clone of Homelander.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if it does though, because there could be like we didn't get a good enough look. Like at first, I looked at it and just thought it was almost like Deadpool-esque, where his skin's all fucked up.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. He's definitely not dead though, because he didn't die on camera, so he's not dead.
Yeah. Butcher with the crowbar. I mean, there were so many things that were just like comic book stuff. They're like nice, and then them all sitting on the couch. We got that iconic moment when his wife walks in. They're all sitting on the couch, like looking, like, okay, that was pretty cool. So they know what they're doing. It's in good hands, and I really enjoyed the season.
Yeah, I'm excited for more of this too. Like, it's just such a good show.
All right, let's jump into the news. I guess after all that, Aftershock Comics has announced plans to merge with TV film distribution company Rivi Gauchi, I guess. And the company the company is now going to be called Aftershock Media. Rivi Gauch has been around since 1994 and responsible for shows like Dog Whisperer, Homicide Hunter, Something's Killing Me, and more. So seems like they're just trying to jump into this whole comic book thing, which is good for them.
So yeah, like I had read that Aftershock had always had a TV film division, but it was very like small.
Yeah,
it was a big thing for them when they created it. Like, we want to not only have creators have control of the books, but also have someone that they can go directly to for adaptations of their work. And this is kind of adds more to it. And this company, I mean, they've been around forever, and not like Dog Whisperer wasn't a big deal, but they don't have like a lot of adaptation work under their belt that I could see.
Big effects stuff. And I guess as far as comic book publishers go, they don't. I mean, there's not a whole lot of superhero stuff coming from Aftershock, so maybe that's why they decided to take the chance.
No, but hopefully that means that our favorite writer over at Aftershock, Stephanie Phillips, will have some stuff on TV soon.
Oh, that'd be awesome. HBO Max has announced 2 more animated series coming to the streaming platform. First up is adaptation of Lumberjanes, with the team behind the latest She-Ra animated series. So that's pretty cool.
Did you ever read Lumberjanes?
No, I didn't. And it popped up recently where I was like, oh, I really got to read that. I just don't know why I never got around to it.
Yeah, I've heard really good things. I just have admitted to myself and to the world that like this book is not meant for me. It's not directed at me.
But I've heard
that's fine.
Good. Yeah,
but I've heard it's super, like, really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So check that out. This is probably something I will be interested in. Is a new show
predicted by Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Go ahead.
Yep. Right. Show called Bat Wheels, which is said to be a show about sentient, superpowered vehicles fighting crime in Gotham City. Awesome. Why not? Yeah,
I mean it's more directed towards small children, but it doesn't mean that it's not good, and it doesn't.
So
mean
is Brave and the Bold,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things directed at small children that I like. Pokemon,
exactly.
But yeah, it's a funny. It's just funny because I remember being in the theaters watching Teen Titans Go to the Movies, and they have that sequence where it's like the Batmobile movie.
Yeah.
And now, like, here we go. Like,
here we go. Here they've come full circle. We finally got it. The Invincible teaser trailer. What are your first takeaways of it? I'm hoping it's good. They kept with the goriness, so that's good. Some of the animation I was a little iffy on. Some of it looked good. Some of it looked kind of strange to me.
The base animation, the characters, I really like. It wasn't exactly what I wanted,
right?
But I still like it, and I still think it fits.
Mm-hmm.
where I get wonky is this new thing that everyone's doing, and it's
3D.
from TV to video games to everything. Is let's put a 2D animation and then add 3D to it.
Yeah,
and it's that 2.5D, as a lot of video people do. And yeah, I'm not a fan, but
yeah,
it does look good, and the voice cast is phenomenal. So
yeah, I mean, the voice cast sounds. I mean, Steven Yeun, right?
yeah,
as Invincible sounds great.
J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Hamill's in there.
It's all great.
Seth Rogen's in there.
Seth Rogen. Yeah, so I thought it was a good teaser. I mean, I'm watching it. We know we're all watching it. So yeah.
It's a gripe. It's a minor gripe, but it's a gripe. Like, I just don't like that. That's the new standard now that everyone's doing.
Yeah, that's all right. First look at the MODOK. Speaking of animations, we get the first look at the MODOK Hulu series, and I wasn't really that interested in this. I mean, I was going to watch it, but now seeing that there's like stop motion animation for this, I think takes it to another level of like the absurdity of MODOK, right? And I think it's going to be a tale of how they're going to treat this character, right? So, what did you think?
Yeah, so they showed some scenes during they're calling it New York Comic Con, but it's not New York Comic Con. I don't care.
Yeah.
And Patton Oswalt was on talking about it. And first of all, I don't know if I forgot or never knew, but Patton Oswalt's playing MODOK. So that's first and foremost. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, his voice acting is great.
As soon as I saw the stills for the animation, I got excited. I was like, this is going to be so awesome. This looks so good. The perfect, like, what they're trying to do, which is kind of make fun of MODOK a little bit and, like, make him a comedic character. And then I saw the scenes. And the first scene they show, and it's the one I'll talk about really the most, is him talking to an AIM agent who has one of those visor caps on and is like crunching the numbers to see how much money they made this year.
Yeah, like an accountant person.
Yes. And he's going through a sequence where like the Avengers kick their ass and like telling him like this is, you just lost 10 million here and 20 million here and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then being like, listen, you can't keep doing this, MODOK. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but like if we keep losing money like this, we're gonna fail. We're gonna fall. Yeah. And it's so good in how they like set up the humor, and it's very like a commentary about superhero stuff as in general of like, where do they get all this money to do all this stuff all the time?
Yeah.
And then like there's scenes with MODOK and his like MODOK wife, and I am so excited for this.
Is it like, would you almost say like the satire of like Venture Brothers? You know what I mean?
It's almost like Venture Brothers with a twist of Robot Chicken.
Yeah. Okay.
With the greatest single supervillain character ever created as the lead. So I'm so happy about it. I can't.
You're finally getting what you want. I'm happy for you. I got Owlman last week. You get MODOK this week. Things are really looking up for us, Chris.
They're listening to us.
Yeah, I know. Someone is, apparently.
Us elder statesmen of the comic book podcast world.
Our time has finally come. We've peaked. That's it. It's very fleeting. DC has announced. I love these announcements. They're like, we got to keep announcing things. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Because like Marvel announced stuff, that DC's like, we got all these Green Lanterns. It's like, okay, well, slow down here. DC has announced that the Green Lanterns are getting their own HBO Max series. Listen, are you guys going to subscribe yet? Because I'm going to keep announcing this HBO Max stuff till you guys finally get a subscription, is what I'm saying. We're not sponsored by HBO Max, but holy shit, these the news lately is I might as well have a subscription. It says it's going to follow Lanterns like Alan Scott, Kilowog, Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, and Simon Boz. So right away, this is what tells me like they don't know what the hell they're doing, because like why do you have Alan Scott, Simon Boz, Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz all in one show?
There's also two names left out of that list that are very important.
Right. And if everybody's like, well, I've never heard of those Green Lantern names, that's because there's no word on if the series is going to tie into the DC cinematic universe, or if they're going to have plans to use Hal Jordan and or Jon Stewart to bring to the big screen. So it's like, Okay, first off, we announced Green Lantern series, but the two Green Lanterns that people know and love, and the most popular ones, nothing's being said about them. But we got Kilowog. And I mean, I'm excited for. Listen, as much as I poo-pooed that, I would love to see Alan Scott series. I love Alan Scott. He is my favorite Green Lantern. I mean, you could defeat the guy with a pencil, but like, other than that, I think he's a really cool character.
So yeah, this still leaves room for that Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart buddy cop movie, and if that happens, nothing else matters. I don't care because I want that.
Right.
Taking this on its own. Yeah, so first we're gonna retcon Alan Scott to be a Green Lantern because he's Green Lantern, but he's not a Green Lantern.
Right.
Like,
sure. He's not part of the core.
Yeah, he's Golden Age Green Lantern. He sucked up a bunch of steam and was like, "Hey, I got a magic ring now."
It's so true. He inhaled steam. No, nobody remembers that origin. It's so great.
Or no, I'm sorry. Inhale steam was Flash.
Oh yeah,
he was the train crash. Or
the train crash. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, inhale steam was.
But anyways, he gets a ring, but he's not part of the core, and his powers aren't done with willpower. And even if you want to go to the Earth 2 book from New 52, which is fantastic, by the way,
really good stuff.
That was power from the Green, aka Swamp Thing.
Right.
So yeah, like, are we retconning him to be a part of the core, or is he going to be like? Because if this is a part of the extended universe, then maybe he's just like the old man who's like they go to talk about things because presumably he's going to be in the Black Adam series or movies. That's my big question there. Guy Gardner, I'm not a fan of. Kilowog, awesome. Just follow Kilowog. Just do that.
I could do. If you just said it was a Kilowog series, I would have been excited for that.
Yeah, Jessica Cruz is okay.
Yeah,
and I'm still just confused on whose idea it was to give Simon Baz, the only Middle Eastern Green Lantern, a gun, because there's a lot of bad racial stereotypes there.
Right.
Anyway,
I will say I'd rather have the Jessica Cruz power ring. You know what I mean? Of like, the ring is like consuming her, and she's like has this constant struggle of like, I'm a weak person, I'm a failure. I like that idea because then you could like distinguish between Green Lanterns. Because all we have here is we just have a bunch of Green Lanterns, and the only interesting one that we found are the two that aren't like the other Green Lanterns, which is Kilowog because he's a giant beast, and Alan Scott because he's not a real Green Lantern. So it's like, where are we going here, DC?
That's my thing too. Like, I know people like Guy Gardner, so I'm sure he'll be like the main focus here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Simon Baz still isn't that popular, but
right,
you're right. Like Jessica Cruz, what makes Jessica Cruz good and what makes her interesting is the fact that she was she was consumed by the power ring,
right?
And she was a character that had no will and was very like frightened of everything, and that was how the power ring took over her, and she was able to overcome that to gain all this willpower, which then made her a Green Lantern. Like that's what makes her interesting.
Yeah, that's the cool part about her, not her as a Green Lantern. Now you need that whole story arc of how she got there.
Yeah.
So maybe one episode per, like, this is how this Green Lantern started. This is how this Green Lantern started. Who knows what they're doing with this? But they just wanted to announce it, get people excited. I think.
Put all this aside, I'm gonna watch it. But if this was a Green Lantern core show where it's like every episode is a different Green Lantern and we're gonna follow them on an adventure, that would be awesome.
That'd be like a Mandalorian style, like new character every episode.
Well, if you read, so I think I've said this a few times. I bought this book from DC called Alan Moore Does the DC Universe, and it has like all the stuff you expect out of him. Whatever Happened to Man of Tomorrow and Killing Joke and blah blah blah. My favorite stuff in there is he did a run on a book called Green Lantern Corps, where every issue was about a different Green Lantern, and it's not the Green Lanterns you know. He just he did stuff on just random ass Green Lanterns, one-shot stories. And I think that's some of the most interesting stuff they can do with Green Lantern, and I hope that's what this show is.
Right.
And maybe just focus on some bigger name ones.
Right. And I mean, not all the ones that pertain to Earth.
Yeah. But once again, maybe Alan Scott, they could like somehow make him the narrator and be like,
that would be cool.
Yeah, like there's things you can do there. Yeah. Either way, I'll check this out.
Yep. And then the Russo brothers gave some more news about their comic book documentary series they're working on. Now it's going to Quibi's streaming service, and that the news is that Kevin Smith will be narrating the series. So expect a lot of dick jokes. um, yeah, I don't use Quibi right now, but yeah, good for them. That's going to probably drum up a lot of business for them, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Smith will bring the enthusiasm you need. The big news here is I thought Quibi's was dead.
Yeah, me too. Honestly,
didn't it get like sold or something?
I don't know. I thought we were down to like Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu, but I don't know.
Yeah. That said, I will wait for this to come somewhere where I can get it on its own.
I usually wait to buy something on Amazon Prime. You know, I'd rather pay for it on Amazon once and then stream it there. Movie news. Craig Robinson, Andy Samberg are reuniting for a new superhero comedy called Super High. I love this. I love it so much. Number one, because Chris and I talked about this. Those two guys together on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the relationship they have as, you know, characters on the show, and just the dynamic of like he's the one guy that keeps getting away. The basic premise, though, for the show is there's a special strain of marijuana that gives him superpowers. Yes. All the money, take it. I'm watching this show. I don't know about you, but I am watching this show.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of Andy Samberg stuff. I know isn't he in that group that does the parody songs?
Yeah, Lonely Island or whatever.
Yeah, so those are funny. I haven't seen many of his movies, but I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And whenever Craig Robinson shows up, it's like, you know, it's like a Randy episode from South Park. Like, if it's gonna be a Randy Marsh episode, you know it's a good one.
Yep. When
Craig Robinson shows up, you know it's a good one. And I like those two together.
He's such a talented dude, like musician wise and all that stuff. I mean,
Craig Robinson. I mean, he was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I liked him in that. His character in The Office is fantastic. He did a bunch of stuff with Seth Rogen over the years, and it's awesome. He's good.
He's one of those guys that shows up that you're like, you weren't expecting, but you're like, man, this makes this just that much better when you see him on screen, you know? It's like, oh, okay, cool.
He's hands down the reason I went to go see Hot Tub Time Machine. Hands down. I saw him, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be good.
You got to go see, like, it doesn't matter. Nobody else matters. It looks like Benedict Cumberbatch is joining the cast of Spider-Man 3, and, of course, it's going to be as Doctor Strange. So, thoughts on that?
I think it lends credence to the SpiderVerse thing, rumors.
Yeah,
I think it lends credence to that, but I think that will be Spider-Man 4 because this can really set up like Doctor Strange, because I believe this is going to take place before Doctor Strange 2. So this could be Doctor Strange. He has a connection to the multiverse. He could be the reason that Electro comes over, possibly. And then it could set up at the end where like he enters the multiverse and like, oh my god, look at these other Spider-Men.
Yeah, that would be cool if like, you know, Electro shows up, you know, like Jamie Foxx shows up in the movie, and then he's like, but wait, there's this other guy with the same name and DNA, right? If like the DNA strands match or something, then he's like, what the hell? Get Doctor Strange in or something, you know, like there's got to be a reason that like, because, you know, Peter Parker is a person of science, he's gonna like try to understand that, or you would think, and then like, oh wow, this doesn't make sense, you know, this guy, there's two of these people or something.
That's a good point too. That's a cool dichotomy of characters, like Peter Parker being the very scientific technological mind, and Doctor Strange the master of mysticism. Yeah, I'm down with this. I mean, and they also said that he's going to kind of take over that role that Iron Man was doing and kind of mentor Peter a little bit more. So that's cool. I mean, if everything I said is true, and this sets up kind of Peter going to the multiverse and doing a Spider-Verse thing, then take the money. Take all of the money.
Yeah, for sure. Comic book news.
So real quick, because it's not in the notes, but I wanted to ask you about this. Did you see? So Alan Moore has this new movie out. Have you seen anything about this?
No. What is it?
So it's dumb. I mean, it doesn't matter. But what's important here is Alan Moore gave some of the first interviews he's given in a long time. And he said some Alan Moore-y things about comic books.
Oh, boy.
And I was kind of curious what your thoughts on them were.
I didn't see him.
But I just want to say, like, I'm at the point with Alan Moore where I feel like he's, you know, that you had this friend in high school, maybe even in college, who was dating a girl, was like falling in love with her, and then she cheated on him. And then he was just like, all women suck. All women are the worst. And he was crying about it all the time. You know that guy.
Yep.
That's what Alan Moore is to me. Like, DC fucked him, and now he goes around being like, comics are dumb and they're meant for kids.
Yeah.
And I sit back and go like, dude, like, you're not Alan Moore without comics, so shut up. Like,
also,
get over it.
How relevant is he right now? I mean, you made it, you know, relevant to like a everyday thing happening throughout life, but like I would make it more relevant to like the thing going on with J.K. Rowling right now. Like, you had this person that created these books that people like hold near and dear, right? And then they still are using like, he hasn't talked in a while. I mean, she talks all the time, but like, now you're turning your fan base against you, but they still love the things you created. You know what I mean? And it's like, number one, is this person, like, should we even be listening to this person? Because like, they've been so out of the game, you know what I mean? Like, out of the industry. And why do we listen to this person? Like, just because they have a platform to speak and they have all these followers, like, we enjoy what they made, but now it's like, I don't know.
That's what I think too, is he hasn't been out that long. Because if you read the timeline of Alan Moore,
right?
Alan Moore left comics. He got fucked by DC and left comics. And then he made the decision that he wasn't going to take money from DC anymore.
Right.
So DC stopped sending him money because why bother?
Right.
But that was his decision.
Right.
And then when he started going bankrupt, what did he start doing again?
Yeah.
Writing comics.
Right.
And he wrote a bunch of comics mostly for Avatar, but a bunch of different places, and then made a bunch of money again. And now he's off making these stupid movies that I'm probably going to go watch, but it's just like, I just wish he would get over it. I wish he would get past it.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I really want to I read them and text me about them later. This is nothing for the show. I just want to know what your comments are on it, because it really bugs me that he just has to go around constantly and be like, you know, like, they were meant for, like, one of his things was they were meant for 10-year-old kids back in the 40s. And it's like, yeah, they were.
Yeah.
But they're not anymore.
And this is coming from the guy who wrote Swamp Thing in the 80s. Like,
yeah. And like, he wrote The Killing Joke.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he wrote Watchmen.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Like, Watchmen is the most adult comic book of its time to this day. Like,
I don't understand. And the whole thing of like any comic book shop you walk into, people praise Alan Moore, and it's like, this guy is such a dick. Like, I'm gonna say he's just a dick, and like, and people still, and to really just to go out and say that, like, well, insult, and you're kind of insulting your fan base of like, well, these things are for kids, for children. It's like, well, you got people still pushing your name in comics to this day. You know, 30 years later, 40 years later, people are still pushing Watchmen. You know, it's like,
I respect everything he did for our industry.
Right.
1,000%. Like, he did some amazing things. Him and Frank Miller are two pioneers that deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore of comics. But dude, like, you signed a bad business deal. I'm sorry. Get over it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Anyways.
All right, go ahead.
IDW is celebrating the 25th anniversary of Transformers Beast Wars with a new comic series with the same title. The series written by Eric Burnham with art by Josh Burkham. So that's pretty cool. I mean, Beast Wars is always a huge popularity among the Transformers. I don't think it held up when I went try to go back and rewatch it recently, but I thought it was a cool idea of the Transformers also as beasts, you know. So
Beast Wars is my first Transformers.
Yeah.
And Beast Wars has a special place in my heart because Beast Wars was one of those things that gets forgotten in my history, because I always talk about Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series. But one of the shows that me and my father would always sit down and watch was Beast Wars. So emotionally, it has a tie to me. Like I love that series for that reason. You are right, though. I went to go back and watch it, and it's horrendous.
Oh yeah,
But
it doesn't hold up at all. Yeah,
I watched like 2 episodes. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not gonna watch anymore because
yeah,
there's so many great memories attached to this. Me and my
yep,
father sitting down
yep.
watching it,
That's it. I'm leaving it there.
and I had a bunch of the toys.
Yep.
And let me say, old man talk time. Those toys were difficult to transform, and I bought recent Transformers toys. All you kids today are bitches. Um, that said, I am 1,000% buying this series.
Yeah,
I'm
awesome.
down for it. Like,
Yeah, because now it's a new medium to get it from, and I think it'll almost preserve it.
And I'm not going to speak for Eric or Josh, but most likely two guys who also grew up watching this, who have
Right.
fond memories like I do, and you do as well.
Yep.
And now they're going to write something probably a little bit better than what was on the show, and put it into a medium that we all love. So I'm so down for this. I love
it. Marvel has announced their new class of Young Guns. For those that don't know, this is the batch of new, young, and exciting artists who have joined Marvel Comics with exclusive contracts. This year, they're calling them the Marvel Stormbreakers, and the class includes Pat Gleason, Josh Cassara, Peach Momoko, Natasha Bustos, Ivan Coelho, Carmen Canero, Juan Cabal, and RB Silva. So that's pretty cool, bringing new talent to the industry.
Yeah, I love when they do this every year. They're not necessarily new to the industry, but new to Marvel, and they just want to put them up on a. I mean, Pat Gleason's been around at DC for
years. He's been doing DC stuff for a long time.
But Josh Cassara, he's been doing a bunch of stuff at X-Men, and he did some Star Wars stuff as well. Natasha Bustos, I guess she did Spider-Woman and a few other stuff. Ivan Coelho, I recognize. He's been doing stuff for Venom, and he's doing that book Dark Ages with Tom Taylor.
Oh, cool.
So he's very talented. I'm excited about him.
Yep.
Juan Cabal has been on Guardians of the Galaxy, the most recent series. I love his work. RB Silva's doing Fantastic Four soon. But the one here is Peach Momoko.
Peach Momoko.
Yeah. Peach Momoko I'd never heard of in my life. No clue who she was. I looked her up. She does almost exclusively cover work, and she does a very anime style. And apparently a lot of her covers go for thousands of dollars online. And I'm not talking about the originals. I'm talking about the variant covers that people buy. So
maybe she has a huge following, something in the anime world.
I have no clue. But apparently there was a bidding war between Marvel, DC, and I think it was Image. Maybe it was Dark Horse to get her exclusively, because then they can put her covers as 1 in 1,000 variants.
Oh yeah,
and people will chase them further.
Oh, but they don't support secondary markets, Chris. Come on, they would never.
No, but then they can get into that because if your comic retailer has to buy whatever, let's say it's 1,000, has to buy 1,000 issues, they made money.
That's how they get you. Yep.
So apparently I'm assuming this is a woman because Peach. I could be wrong. I'm sorry if I am wrong, but I'm assuming it's Peach or it's a woman. Good for her because she came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't even hear about that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So new talent. I guess we'll just jump into what we read. You want to start with Penultiman #1 because this is my new. I have to say it. This is my new Dragonfly Man book. Yeah, I like it just as much, man. So if everybody remembers, we had Tom Parer on the show. So this is the Tom Parer, Alan Robinson, and Lee Lugridge on the colors. And this is Tom Parer's take on Superman, but from the 910th century. He comes sent to the present day. He gets sent back, exiled from his timeline, comes to our timeline. He's a god to us. He's a Superman among humans, right? He kind of struggles with the fact that he wasn't wanted in his century and gets so that's kind of interesting. Why did they not want me? But he also has an android assistant and to Penultiman. And all this stuff is so it's very satirical humor, right? And it's done very well. And there's a lot of seriousness to it. The issue revolves around like Penultiman gets called back to his timeline to help out like his parents or elders, and because he has super strength, so he has to like punch a bad person, and then they send him right back. So he's like super upset about that. I like that his Clark Kent style alter ego is like this scruffy guy and doesn't look anything like him. That was pretty interesting. Yeah, and I think the takeaway is that when he was gone, like he has this android take over for him when he's got to like become a reporter. The interesting thing is he's a successful reporter now, so he gets promoted. But also, the android has made friends with to rehabilitate a supervillain that had just gotten locked away. And the supervillain at the end of the issue like announces on the news, "Oh, I'm really good friends with Penultiman," and he's like, "Oh shit, what did the android do?" So I thought it was a really great first issue. Tom Pear has that writing style of like an appreciation for the heroes, the superhero comic, but also the satire of it as well, and likes to break the mold of what we know and what we expect. And I just love his writing. I mean, he's just a great guy.
Yeah, it was a great issue. And anyone that wants to check it out, there was an issue 0 that came out prior to COVID that's free on Comixology. So you can check it out. And when you love it, you can buy a copy.
Yep.
Great issue.
Swamp Thing Halloween Special #1. Basically, 6 different short stories about different Swamp Things throughout the timeline. Pretty much, they're all very good. There's several artists and writers on it. Not really. One of them didn't really stick out. Some of them are spooky. Some of them are kind of depressing and sad. But yeah, I thought if you like Swamp Thing, you'd like this special. I mean, it's just it's cool to see different iterations of Swamp Thing in different cultures too, not just Swamp Thing in Louisiana swamp. It's Swamp Thing in Japan. It's Swamp Thing during like the Spanish Inquisition and stuff like that. So really interesting stuff. Batman #100. So we talk about James Tynion, how he's come such a long way with his writing. This issue is really good. There's a lot of cool stuff for Bat fans out there. Mostly because we have all the Bat family out in the field trying to like save Gotham. Oracle comes back. Batgirl's like, well, you guys need a shock collar, so I'm putting the glasses on and I'm sitting down at the computer. So that's what she does this issue, and it's fantastic. You get the Joker War wrapping up, so you get Punchline fighting the Bat family, which is really cool. Basically, the fight between Joker and Batman, because Joker's got like this custom bat suit because he had all of Bruce Wayne's funding. He's basically killing Batman, and then Harley shows up and like straps a bomb to Joker and straps a bomb to the building and said like, Batman, you need to make a choice of like saving Joker or saving yourself. And he tells Joker, listen, I know you pickpocketed me and you have something to pick the bomb, so I'm going to let you have to save yourself. And he's like, no, you're going to have to save me. And Batman ditches him, which is pretty funny. He's like, you're going to stay here and save me. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm out. So he leaves, and there's no sign of the Joker, and there's his bomb. His bomb never blew up, so he essentially gets away. There's an epilogue that wraps up. It tries to wrap up and start some new storylines. There's an epilogue where there's a new villain that shows up, and I'm really excited. And there's this whole thing of like, they keep getting the same thing. Joker's taking a break for a while, and it's like, oh, this is what we want. Like, it's official that like, okay, we know like Joker likes to show up every once in a while, but they're officially like, okay, Joker's on vacation. Like he's, and they even have like this. There's this thing where he's in a bar, like, oh yeah, I'm taking a break, blah blah blah, and then like he's talking to this dude at the bar, and he's like, oh, you're like, and he finds out like he's the Joker, but. We get Punchline confessing publicly on YouTube of like, oh, I confessed all the things I did, and I was being manipulated, blah blah blah. So that's going to carry over into the own Punchline comic. So if you like that character, you can read that. The new villain they announced, he said something about a truce being over within Gotham after all this happened, because like the whole city got destroyed during the Joker War. and he looks awesome. He's like his name's the Ghost Maker, and he's got like swords, and he's got this crazy looking suit. I'm like, now this, I'm excited for this story. New villains. Kind of looks like Deathstroke. I think it's really cool. And then we have Batman track down the Clown Killer, and who wasn't? I know we talked about it. You thought it was Damien. It's just a kid that his parents were killed by the Joker, and that's why he took it upon himself to start killing all the clowns and stuff like that. So Batman shows up to his apartment. He's just a kid, and he's like, "Listen, I disarmed all your weapons, all your bombs. You need to stop killing people." And he leaves, and the kid's like, "Well, I'm not going to stop killing people." So that storyline's going to pick up. It was a really good issue. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next story arc with this new villain.
Yeah, so I saw most of the spoilers online, and I was a little disappointed it wasn't Damien. First of all,
right.
But my other disappointment, and I know it's just a me thing, but like I understand people are excited about Oracle coming back.
Yeah.
I still say I really wanted Batman without the support squad, like just Batman out there doing what he can do.
Yeah.
For a more of an extended period of time, because when you bring in Oracle, it's just like, okay, it's female Alfred.
Right. Yeah.
I get people are excited for it. Just me personally, I really wanted to explore that further, but
I love me some Oracle. So I love the shot calling. I don't know. I think it's cool. And then I had Black Widow #2, Kelly Thompson represent. We got the storyline where Widow still doesn't know who she is. Hawkeye, Cliff kind of not really sneaks, but he kind of like wedges himself into the garage when she's like working on her motorcycle, starts talking to her about motorcycles, and kind of develops that she really doesn't know who she is, because him and Bucky are staking out the place. They find out she has a kid, which they're like, how can she have a kid if she went missing for like 3 months? How does she have a kid that looks just like her? And it's like a baby, so it's like something's not adding up here. She goes on a dinner date with her husband, and she beats up some thugs that are like threatening a girl. And it's funny because like Kelly Thompson, does the thing where Black Widow's in heels and fights them, but like the reason she's in heels was because she was on a dinner date with her husband. Like there's a reason for her to be in the heels, kicking ass, and it's like you could tell like she had gone out of her way to do that, and I thought that was pretty funny that she did that. It's not like the whole Jurassic Park thing where she's just wearing heels to run away from a dinosaur. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so and then she's being watched by the Red Captain America, the Soviet Captain America,
Red Guardian.
Red Guardian, and she like wakes up in the middle of the night, and she like out of her subconsciously just builds a bomb, and she's sitting there. She's like, "Why did I build a bomb?" So like something got triggered in her head that I don't know like what's going on, but there's definitely some like sleeper agent stuff happening. It's a pretty cool book so far. I'm enjoying it, and I want to see what's going to happen with Red Guardian. So those are my books for the week.
So my first 2 books are intertwined because they're part of this X of Swords event. So it's part 3 and 4 of X of Swords. Wolverine. What's the actual issue? Wolverine #6, and then X-Force #13. And basically, they're just telling the story of how Wolverine gets his sword in this, and he follows a villain down into hell and has to fight to. He ends up running into the Hand, and has to fight against them to stop them from bringing demons, more demon power up into Earth. And while doing so, runs into another old enemy who created swords for these demons, and that's the sword he needs to use for this arena battle. It's been kind of a weird event. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just strange. Like it feels like every couple issues is going to be like, how can we get this mutant to get a sword? But we'll see where it leads. It hasn't gone into any books that I read on the regular yet, so maybe this makes more sense if you're a regular Wolverine and or X-Force reader. But for me, it was kind of like, okay, like, yeah, Wolverine has a sword now. Doesn't he have bone claws? But
exactly. Doesn't he already have sharp things?
Okay. Star Wars #7, and this is the start of the Will of Tarkin storyline. And the basic premise here is that all along Tarkin had this woman that he was mentoring to become like the next great Imperial governor. And it's her backstory of how she became this protege of Tarkin. And then it tells her story of how, like, she was on the Death Star right before it blew up, and she actually escaped the Death Star by breaking orders to go finish a mission that she had failed on. And that's kind of the backstory to what's happening now, which is Leia and the rest of the rebels are going to fight the Imperials and try to take down the squadron, and this woman is at the helm of it. So it becomes very personal for her because she knows that Luke and Leia are on there, and she knows that they destroyed the Death Star and killed her mentor. It's a really cool story arc so far. I mean, it's one issue, but I really liked it, and just I love Tarkin's. I love kind of the Imperial hierarchy and the different generals and governors inside of it. So a lot of that going on is really cool for me. Highly recommend this issue. Cool. Thor number 8, which is basically just a wrap up of the last issue. So these 2 issues were kind of just to connect the 2 stories together, and it's all just basically we come to the conclusion that Thor and Iron Man are having a prank war against each other. So Thor, we know last issue, threw down the hammer with Tony Stark's cell phone number on it, and Tony says, like, "Good one, but I'm gonna get you back better." And they have this whole moment, and then the gentleman who picked up the hammer and got the powers of Thor has this talk with Thor and is just like, "Listen, I'm just a dude. Like, I don't want to be this guy or anything." And Thor's like, "Good. Like, this was never intended for you to take. But if you ever need anything, you are owed one from a god." And the guy says, "Well, there is one thing I would like to do," and his wish is to fly. So him and Thor like fly around and have this good moment. It's a really cool kind of sweet story arc about this man who had gone to prison, done things wrong, was trying to really like rehabilitate himself and create a new life for himself, and then has this moment and he gets to accomplish a dream of his, which is just to fly. And it's setting up a story arc where Donald Blake is coming back. And anyone who doesn't know, Donald Blake is in the original Thor, like we're talking Stanley, not Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby days. Thor came to Earth as Donald Blake, but what really happened was Donald Blake was a human who, when he held the Thor's hammer, became Thor, and that slowly, like over time, divided to where there were 2 separate beings. But Donald Blake is still out there somewhere, and Donny Cates is bringing him back, and awesome. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I don't think we've heard from him in a long time, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
Awesome.
And then Miles Morales Spider-Man number 19. I think this is the most consequential issue of this story series so far, where we get kind of where these different Miles Morales Spider-Man are coming from. And what it is somebody's cloned Miles. And the person who's cloned Miles is Miles. So
makes sense.
Ultimatum is out there, and we know that Ultimatum is actually Miles Morales from our universe. And he's pissed off because Miles has taken his spot in the 616 universe. And so he's cloned our Miles and created all these false Spider-Men to go around and basically make him look bad. And meanwhile, so he's captured them and told them, like, I'm going to put you back into your universe. And he ends up getting away with help of the Prowler, but in the background, evil Miles is sitting there going, like, this isn't over, and I'm going to complete this mission. So it's interesting because now Miles Spider-Man knows that he was once in a different universe. Yeah. Like, all that history is now in him. Because up until now, he's thought that he's always been a part of this universe. Now he knows that there was an Ultimate Universe and knows that it existed. So I really liked it for that reason, and I really want to see where he goes with the next issue on this one. I also want to say real quick, Marvel's been doing these great tributes to Chadwick Boseman, both on the back of the book and then inside the books. Let's see if I can. Yeah. So this was the mural they put up at, I don't know if it's Disneyland or where it was, but this is up at one of Disney's parks. And there's a essay from Ta-Nehisi Coates who I've shit on a lot in this show because I don't like his Captain America, but this eulogy that he writes is very touching. And if you have picked up a Marvel book recently and you've seen that in there, give it a read, because apparently those two were friends and knew each other for a long time. And it's very touching what he says about him. So I thought they've been doing a really cool job with kind of honoring who Chadwick was and is. So with all that, Mike,
yeah,
where can people find you on the internet?
Find me at Fortress Rickard on Twitter. Where can they find you and or the show?
They can find me at Fortress Chris on Twitter or chrisrunt.com. They can find the show at fortressofcomicnews.com. Remember, everybody listening to us, 5-star review on whatever podcatcher you use, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever. If you're listening to us, like, subscribe, share, comment down below. If you want to go that extra mile, we got the Patreon at patreon.com/fortressofcomicnews. And I want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next week.